Here is the starting work of a Unity project based around home. Now, home can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. It can be a house, it could be family, friends, it could be a childhood memory, a good memory, um, places you've been, things you used to do, something um, that just surrounds the word home. So we need to think about what would represent home for you, or maybe a small part of that. I chose snapdragon flowers as my representation of home because when I was a little kid, my mom taught me how to, squeeze the flower and the mouth would open kind of like a puppet. So I thought that was fantastic and hilarious when I was a little girl. So that's what I chose for mine. Once you find your subject that you would like, it's easier if it's a more tangible subject that you can find different reference photos from so that you have different ideas of how to shade it and color it and whatnot. We will be taking a white sheet of paper for our background, then gluing 3 different pieces of paper on top. We have a tan piece of paper, we have a black piece of paper, and we have some maps that we have torn up and arranged onto our white sheet of paper for our background. Now, if you don't have access to maps, you can print something out. You can use sheet music or anything as a back. You can use really anything as a background for this portion. Now, since we got different colored backgrounds, we're using different types of media to draw on these backgrounds. On our tan paper, we're using a normal pencil. On our black paper, we are using a white colored pencil or a white charcoal pencil. On our maps, we are using a drawing pen or a Sharpie. And on our normal white paper, we're going to be using colored pencils. Now, sometimes you can take the white background and change it out for watercolor, but you'll need to use watercolor paper for that, or the water is just going to, ruin your drawing paper. Once you have all your pieces glued down and arranged, you will sketch out your tangible object that represents home. Make sure your object touches at least all different types of paper so that we will be drawing in all different types of media and textures. We'll be looking at textures and value range within our drawings. And I started my drawing and I did a little bit on each little section to kind of show you what we're going to be doing and how to do that. I'll go ahead and zoom in and do a little bit for each one so that you guys can see what I am talking about and what we should be focused on. My flower has come on to this tan piece of paper right here, and we have a flower bud that's not fully open, but we're going to go ahead and draw this and show you the different kinds of shading for that. Now, when I am shading and adding texture to my drawing, I am always looking at a reference photo. With these reference photos, don't think of reference photos as cheating or I'm using one because I'm not a real artist or anything like that. Don't think of reference photos like that, because if you do, then you're just cheating yourself. Reference photos are very important for good drawing and how to become a better artist. When I am shading in our first layer with pencil, main thing I'm doing is adding darks and lights to this. When you just do one all over value or tone, it will look flat. But when I put dark areas up against light areas, they appear to be popping out and look more realistic. Now, once I get this, I'm going to be using my blending tool. A blending tool can simply be your finger, Q-tip, or I have these blending tools right here. It's called either a blending stump or a tortillon. And it's just a rolled up piece of paper that kind of smudges and smooths that around. Now, don't over smudge your drawing or it's all going to look the same, or it's going to look super smooth. And you don't want that because you want darks and lights within your drawing. It's going to smooth out some rough areas. Go back make some sharper lines. I'm still looking at my reference photo when I do this. And don't forget that your eraser is one of the best tools that you can use as well to lighten up some areas. Make sure I have a good hard and soft edge to my drawing so that they can pop out next to each other to make it look more realistic. I'm also taking quite a bit of time to do just this little section, and that's okay. When we look at our artwork at the end, time and effort will be noticeable. You'll be able to see, anyone can see time and effort shown into a work of art pretty or fairly easy. So when we do our artwork, I want you guys to be focused on your time and effort shown into your work and how to make it look strong with your different values and our different textures. Here, I'll go ahead and leave this alone, and I may come back to it later. I may not. I may come back and add just a touch here and there, or add some darker areas to make it pop a little bit more. But that's where I'm going to leave it be for the rest of my drawing. Another section of our drawing is black and white. You're first going to use a white colored pencil. Now, I drew on this beforehand with normal pencil, and it has a little bit of a shine, but sometimes it's kind of hard to see that. So I'm going to go in and outline it again. I have that right here. It's kind of finishing off the flower that I have in color. Now, when you do white and black this way, kind of go opposite in your shading. So what's supposed to be a shadow or the dark area, you're going to have more whites. This, we're going to be adding just a touch of a black colored pencil. In areas we may have gone a little too much with our white pencil, and this will help make our drawing pop a little bit more to show more texture. And you only want to add just a little bit. Make sure you have lights and darks in that value for your texture. When I was doing this before, I got a little carried away with my Sharpie, and I almost forgot to leave a little bit to show this on a video. But I got this drawing pen, a fine tip Sharpie will work as well. What we're going to be using here is hatch marks and dots and lines. You're not going to be filling in your sections completely, or just a simple outline of your drawing over this portion. So I have a tip of a leaf right here. And what I did before, I created hatch marks on the inside to help outline my leaf so it would pop up against all this distracting background. So use hatch marks and cross hatching for this as well. So the top part of my leaf, I did the cross hatching. So it's a little bit darker. And on the other side, I just did the normal hatching. And I'll probably go back in here to make my leaves pop more and look more defined over my maps. The colored pencil portion is going to probably take you the longest, because there's a lot more you can do with color rather than just plain black and white. I'm going to do this little head of flower right here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to lighten it up, because with the colors I'm using are really light and iridescent, and I don't want my pencil lines to be showing through too much. So I'm going to erase it just enough so I can still see it, but it's not going to be very noticeable when I put color on top. I'm going to be using layers of different colors. You can see that I'm going to start from the lightest and start going the darkest. Now I have used, or I am still using, a reference photo when I am doing this, because flowers are different, and they don't follow a cookie cutter kind of rhythm. So looking at reference pictures will help you decide where to change or what to keep and things of that nature. So the tips of this is yellow. And then I'm going to move on to a brighter pink. When you use your colored pencils, make sure you use several different colors. If you're drawing pink flowers, use shades of pinks and purples and blues and oranges. Use all that you can within your drawing to make your colors pop. And right now I'm just doing little circles to have a smoother surface when for my petals. But you can see I'm going to go back over it and add some texture along with that. I am not using black to outline my flowers. Please do not use a black colored pencil to outline your image, or it's going to look really flat. You want to use color on top of color when you do this. Now, to know which color to use, you could reference back to the color wheel and see what colors are right next to each other. So pinks are more of kind of like a red tone, so right next to red is either orange or purple. So with this one, I'm using purple to show some darker areas for this. And for some lighter areas, I'm using some oranges. And I keep going back and forth between my colors to fill in more at a time. Remember, with colored pencils, you got to do it by layers. You can't just go all in all at once, because if you do, it's just going to be flat. And we want ours to have texture and color change and to be more vibrant looking. And for the vibrancy, you got to make sure that you don't mix complements together. So if I was have that yellow right there, but if I put purple right on top, it will get really dark and almost like a gray color. And sometimes they can get almost like a gross brown color as well. I'm using a white colored pencil to kind of blend everything together. I remember when you use white on top of colored pencils, it does blend and help kind of smudge the colors together, but it will lighten it up because it is white. But that's okay for mine because I want my petals to look soft and velvety, because that's what petals are. They're soft and velvety. Now that I'm drawing near the end of my flower here, I'm just putting some finishing touches, and I'm always going to come back and do a second round to make sure I don't miss anything. When we are drawing, make sure that you take your time. When we get too frustrated with something, take a little break, come back to it when you do feel that you can take your time with things. Remember, quality over quantity, and have fun with it. This will look really cool in the end, and it will have a nice little meaning to it as well.